Salus Award. It is for this institution the highest recognition we can give an individual and sometimes even to a group for their unselfish work in the promotion of priestly vocation. This award has a long line of distinguished members from St. Mother Teresa, its first recipient, to a number of bishops, priests, and many other good and faithful servants who, as part of their life's work, have encouraged and supported men as they studied for the priesthood. To this rank, this evening we add Dr. Walter Petrovitz, professor at St. John's University and professor here in our own seminary, professor of classic languages, and who is a wonderful mentor and friend to so many seminarians and priests. Priestly vocations don't fall out of trees. They develop from seeds of God's Word in a man's heart. Sometimes it is planted there as a child, and it takes years to sprout. At other times it begins to grow immediately as one responds to the invitation to come and follow me. Vocations grow and mature because they are cherished and nurtured by good examples and wise counsel. In this way, parents and friends are so important. Peers, too, for they help to shape what this call may look like. Parish priests are also an aid as they demonstrate a priestly life filled with joy of the sacraments and prayer. But all too often we forget to recognize teachers who help and guide young men as they develop in their vocation. Tonight, we have an opportunity to acknowledge and thank a great Catholic teacher, Dr. Petrovitz, for all he does in the classroom and outside of it to encourage vocation. Good teachers don't just share and evaluate knowledge. Rather, their lessons, they communicate values and ideals that shape and form a student's imagination. Great Catholic teachers, however, go a step further, for they introduce their students not just to an idea, but to a person, Jesus Christ, who is the way, the truth, and the life. Dr. Petrovitz has been this type of educator in our seminary community. In the seminary, the fields of philosophy and theology get a lot of attention. As a philosopher, I have to say the debate goes on to which is more important. Monsignor Keene and I have a running debate. Without a good grounding in the philosophical tradition, theology loses much of its luster and is harder to understand. And yet, as a priest, I concede that philosophy is the handmaid to theology, which is the highest of all studies, the study of God. But as we are often too preoccupied with this debate, we tend to forget that without the knowledge of Latin and Greek, with the knowledge of Latin and Greek and the ability of some great translation, the tomes of Western knowledge would be very poor. Knowledge of the classical languages is the key to our tradition, our history, our sacred text. When these languages are alive in our study, they bring us to deeper truths and profound ideas that are worth contemplating. They open the door to our religious patrimony, our deposit of faith, and they bring us to a truth which truly sets us free. Dr. Petrovitz is one of those special teachers who is able to make the subject come alive, who goes beyond the proposed lesson plan or syllabus for the semester. Over the many years I've had the pleasure to work with Walter, I am struck by the dedication he shows to his field and to his students. And I am forever grateful for the devotion he has shown to the seminarians of this house and other seminary programs in the city. It was with the help of Dr. Petrovitz that St. John's University began to offer college courses to juniors and seniors at Cathedral Prep High School and Seminary. He made the contact and helped to make it possible. When St. John's Neumann was opened, he traveled to Yonkers to teach the men in the program. And now with the merger of our programs and the development of the MA program in Catholic Philosophical Studies, he is very generous with his time and talent, coming each week to teach on this campus. And by going beyond declensions and conjugation, he has a way of sharing with the students the treasures of Latin and the Greek world that are at the root of our Western culture. He has encouraged and gone with many of our students to visit museums, making old, dusty objects become artifacts that tell their story. By exposing our men to ancient texts, rituals, and songs, he has introduced to them how the sacred can come alive in our liturgy, in our music, and fill our sacred space. By sharing his love of custom and tradition, he has exposed us to the best of art and food and language. In a unique and real way, he has helped his students and all of us who have worked with him to experience our faith in a new and profound way. Salus Animarum comes from the word that are inscribed on the front of the building. The whole Latin text reads, Salus Animarum Suprema Lex. The translation means, the supreme law of the Church is the salvation of souls. It is a verse that comes from canon law, the law that guides the pastoral vision of the Church and how we are to live it out in the name of Christ. And yet, it is given as a cautionary reminder that as Christians we are called to live by the spirit of the law, not just in conformity to its rules. When we succeed to live with the Spirit, it manifests God's presence and love. Because of the way Dr. Petrovitz has incorporated this ideal in his life and work as a teacher and mentor to so many seminarians and priests, I invite him now to come forward to receive this year's Salus Animarum Award.
My students are well aware of my fondness for the symbolic imagery that's used in the arts and liturgy of the Church. For example, if you look at the columns that support the baldacchino in St. Peter's Basilica, about a third of the way up, you can begin to notice bees buzzing around the laurel branches. The Easter proclamation, the exalter, praises bees for producing the wax for the Paschal candle. St. John Chrysostom says that bees are more honored than other animals, not because they labor, but because they labor for others. In fact, the beehive itself has traditionally been used as a symbol for the Catholic Church. In the hive, each bee has a particular work to do. And in doing that work, it benefits the entire community. That image comes to mind when I think of my own work teaching seminarians. Doing that job does not involve me in a great array of the activities of the church, but I like to believe that it involves me indirectly in some of those activities through the current and future work of my students. You yourselves also cannot do all of the different works of the church, but you will benefit the church and the world if you find the work that is meant for you and you do it well. That is part of discerning a vocation, which admittedly is not an easy thing to do. It's not as if a voice comes down from heaven and says, "Become a priest." It doesn't happen that way. Discernment is a life's work, and we can only hope to get it right. So work is part of your vocation. But, and in this way you are different from the bees, it is not your vocation. I repeat, your work is not your vocation. Your entire life is your vocation. In everything that you do, every moment you live, if it is done in accordance with God's will, you are living your vocation. We should, in fact, live, in the words of the philosopher Spinoza, sub specie aeternitatis, beneath the gaze of eternity. That is also the path to personal fulfillment. For if we believe in God, if we believe that God created us, it is necessary that we find fulfillment only by doing His will. It could not possibly be otherwise. I am very appreciative for this war, but I'm even more appreciative for having been given the opportunity to realize that part of my vocation, which is my work, in such a wonderful way. I do not like giving speeches. So, I'm going to end by saying thank you for being my students, thank you for being colleagues, thank you for being fellow workers in the hive. My best wishes and prayers will remain